Welcome to the J&J Sports Express, folks. Sorry for the last 2 weeks. I know our followers, I got an email from somebody, our followers. We had technical difficulties last 2 weeks. Hopefully they're resolved. Looking forward to week 9 of the NFL season 2024 with my co-host as usual for the evening, J.B. Ellis. J.B., how you been?
Good. What's going on? So they play football, I hear. It wasn't
Yeah,
very
they
good
play a
for me,
lot of
at
football.
least.
A
So
lot of things
got
been going on, but hey, let's get right to the schedule. We're looking at Thursday night tonight. Houston +2 at the Jets. I'll let you start this baby off, JB.
I know Houston lost Diggs. I'm trying to understand Vegas, and I know, and I never do, that this makes no sense in the world. The Jets are a dumpster fire. What in the world would give anyone the confidence to give points in MetLife Stadium for this Jets team that is more scary than anything else I'll see on Halloween because they're so bad it's scary against the Texans, who are a decent team. They're not the Chiefs, but they're in the top of the league. Decent defense. They got Mixon, which is huge for them. That was one of the best pickups of the offseason. I have to take the Texans. I mean, I'm sure Vegas knows more than I do in this one. And around 11 o'clock Eastern, I'm going to be saying, what the heck would make me think the Texans would win? But I can't do it. I could have pressed the button to hit the Jets. It just doesn't compute.
Well, I got to agree with you on that because the Jets are just woeful and terrible, and they keep making bad decisions. And we can spend 3 hours just talking about bad decisions the Jets have made in the last 10 years. But the fact of the matter is that Houston is a better team on paper than the Jets. They are better on defense. The Jet defense is definitely taken aback from last year. They're not as good in all aspects of playing. Firing the coach midseason, big mistake. Should have just let him play out the string and then decide after the season. But the problem with the Jets is the ego of Aaron Rodgers, and that's why they're favored in this game because everybody thinks that Aaron Rodgers of 5 years ago is going to show up and all of a sudden lead this team to the Super Bowl. I never liked Aaron Rodgers coming to the Jets. I thought it was a bait and switch kind of thing for the fans. A lot of fans don't think, they don't see what is really lying underneath. But Aaron Rodgers had a terrible year his last year in Green Bay. Add to the fact that he lost a year playing with his Achilles last year. So you're talking 2 years removed from actually playing an NFL game. In the NFL, you age faster than in other sports. So Aaron Rodgers is a lot older than, say, if he played baseball or basketball or something else. This is the problem. And according to Aaron Rodgers, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So here you go. That's part of the problem. And the people around it buy into that. Devontae Adams, he thinks he's going to be rebirthed. He's not playing with Aaron Rodgers of 2015. He's playing with Aaron Rodgers 2024, who's 40 years old, can't get out of the pocket, can't do a lot of different things that he used to because, hey, as everybody knows, Father Time has a one-loss record of winning everything and losing nothing. So I like Houston in this game big. I think they definitely win by 7 on the road unless they start getting fumbleitis or turnoveritis. CJ Stroud, he definitely has more interceptions this year than he did last year. But Joe Mixon, like you said, he's got 3 straight 100-yard rushing games. He adds a big difference. He takes a lot of pressure off CJ Stroud. I think the Jets and their defense is overrated. I like the Texans to win on the road by 7 tonight.
Yeah, we definitely agree on that. But this is an interesting game. The Broncos coming off a trouncing where they trounced the Panthers against the Ravens, who had the win and gave it up after they had a late touchdown to the Browns. Ravens are favored by 9.5. What do you like about this one?
I'll tell you something. I love Denver in this game. And if you look back, I really studied the game, the stats of the Denver game. Denver was favored also in that game by 9.5. But the thing is that they capitalized on 2 Bryce Young turnovers. You take away those 2 turnovers, it's a lot closer game. And Carolina still put up 14 points. I liked Denver at home laying the 9.5. But I think Bryce Young has some better games ahead of him. He showed a lot of progress in that game, and Denver's a very tough game, tough team. Broncos are underrated defensively. They have a very strong defense. Sean Payton is a good coach. I wouldn't call him great. He had a lot of years in New Orleans where he had a great team and didn't go anywhere, didn't go to the Super Bowl. And what sticks out in my mind is that he was leading the Rams in the championship game at home, 13-0, and they ended up losing that game in New Orleans. Bo Nix, I like what he's doing so far. They've had a kind of soft schedule because they didn't have a great, one-loss record last season. Ravens, they give up a lot of points in the fourth quarter. And I'll tell you something. I'm not, the Broncos have the defense that could stop Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry from taking off running. And that's part of the reason here. I mean, they did get Dante Johnson from Carolina. Now you got to feed him and you got to take away from all the others. So that first game may be a little shaky for Baltimore. But I'll tell you something. I like the Broncos here plus 9.5. I think not only do they keep it close, but there's a possibility that they could get the upset because of the imbalance on offense with Dante Johnson coming and having to feed everybody on that team.
I definitely hear where you're coming from. Denver's a lot better than anyone thought they would be. They're a decent team. They're not good. They're not great. They're decent. The Ravens are one of the better teams in the AFC. I take away last week's game. It was a division game. The Browns finally have an offense because they have a quarterback.
I love the Browns last week plus 9.5. Winston,
Right.
He got a big shot, and Baltimore again giving up points in the fourth quarter. You don't know what's going to happen. They play 3 quarters of football, and Baltimore goes home after the fourth quarter starts.
Yeah, but when it's all said and done, when you put these two teams on paper, the Ravens are 100 times better. They lost a division game last week. They're in a battle for a division with the Steelers, it doesn't matter who plays quarterback, they just keep winning. So the Ravens have to keep up. This is a must win for them. They were embarrassed last week the way that went down. They need to go out there. They need to just control the ball, show everyone who they are. And they're going to win by at least 2 to 3 touchdowns. The Broncos are decent. I'm not saying that they're not a team that's enjoyable to watch, but this is a step up in class here, and they're not ready for it.
Yeah, but you know what?
Bo Nix is a good quarterback. He's going to be decent in the league. He's not going to be a CJ Stroud, but he's gonna do well.
Well, listen, Ravens might be looking at this and going, "We're a big fav," And they get too cocky, and all of a sudden they start making mistakes, and they lose. I mean, look what they did against Vegas. You got to look back at it and say it could happen. So
anything could happen, but it's not
you like
happening.
the Ravens.
Okay. Ravens are going to establish some domination at home this week.
Okay,
Broncos
we'll see.
traveling east. It's not a favorable matchup for them.
Disagree on that game.
I do like your thought process, but I just don't think they're ready to step up in class yet.
Okay.
Next game's fascinating. The Lions, who had minimal offensive output last week and put up 50 points, going to Green Bay with Jordan Love, who left the game early last week with the groin injury. Lions favored by 3.5. What do you like in this game?
Well, this game actually went from when I was looking at it on Monday, Detroit was actually getting a point to move to the favorite to 3.5 points. Detroit has, I like the attitude of Dan Campbell, the Lions coach. He's the kind of guy that, any play is possible. You have to be aware that we might try a trick play. We might try something unorthodox. He's got a great 1-2 running back combination in Gibbs and Montgomery. I mean, that takes so much pressure off a quarterback. And even with the 85 yards he passed, Jared Goff still had 3 throwing touchdowns. I mean, this team is complete. Then they had a punt return for a touchdown. They almost had another one for a touchdown. It's like before you know it, and they teased Tennessee last week because Tennessee, this game was up. It was 14-14. And then just, Detroit said we had enough and they took care of business and they scored 38 unanswered points. The Packers, Jordan Love is always good for a few interceptions, and that's his problem. He throws the ball. He tries to force it in. If he plays this week, he's got that groin injury. Okay, Malik Willis is very capable. He's shown already with this Packer team that he can play. But I like the Lions. Even though they're out with Aiden Hutchinson, I like the Lions in Green Bay. I think they win by at least 7. It'll be a tough win. But, Packers defense also, they don't show up. They were up 27-17 against Jacksonville last week, for Christ's sakes. I mean, Jacksonville's pretty bad. And they let them come back in that game, and they needed a field goal at the end just to win, of course, but not cover because the spread was 4.5 in that game. But that shows me that if you're going to give up those kind of things to Jacksonville, just wait till Detroit gets started. I mean, they'll run the ball down your throat with Gibbs and Montgomery until you just like fall down from exhaustion. So, I like the Lions in this game laying the 3.5.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I mean, last week they did absolutely nothing and covered a 2-touchdown spread against a bad Tennessee team. The Packers went out with a groin injury. The defense let up a bunch of points late to a team that's not good in Jacksonville, and they ended up winning the game in overtime, the Packers.
Nah, before overtime, it was kicked in that's 0-0 fourth quarter. No overtime.
Okay, my bad. But I mean, it doesn't matter. The Packers are a good team, but this is not a game they're going to win. Lions need to win this game to establish the domination and get that number 1 seed, which they're playing for. Packers are playing to get a wild card, and listen, they're way ahead of where they should be as far as rebuilding after they got rid of Rodgers. But this isn't their week. Detroit's got too much talent on that offense. I mean, you could go to Gibbs, Montgomery, Laporta, St. Brown, the punt return guy, anybody, And like I said, Goff went 84 yards passing. They still covered a 2-touchdown spread and put up 50 points. The Packers, on the other hand, they're winning games. They're playing well, but, again, step up in class.
Yeah.
It'll be a fun game to watch, but I think the Lions end up pulling this one out.
Yeah, and with the Packers, one last comment with the Packers, their games are won by like one, score, which means that one turnover could turn around the whole game from a win to a loss, and that's dangerous. They're not convincing anybody really. They're not winning games convincingly. They're winning, but not convincingly. So,
well, speaking of convincingly, the Colts without Anthony Richardson this week, he's going to be benched for Joe Flacco against the Vikings -5. I'll start with this one. I mean, what an embarrassment in Indianapolis. I need to take a rest on 3rd and goal in a crucial part of the game. Glad he's benched. He should be cut. Joe Flacco is playing better when he is playing. It'll give the Colts a chance to be in the game. But again, Vikings are playing for something. They're, not a great team, but they believe in what they're doing. Darnold has been, steady with how he's been playing. They're coming off a bad loss to the Rams, which the team they should have beaten. The Rams just played them well. Forget about the call in the end zone. That doesn't matter. You can't blame a call for losing a game. When it's all said and done, though, this week the Vikings with Jefferson, Darnold, and the former Packer Jones are going to have no trouble winning at home against the Colts by at least 10 points. The Colts are in trouble. It says a lot that you have to bench a guy that you thought was your franchise quarterback because he needed a break on 3rd and goal. It says a lot about an organization, about how they think. And, glad they put Flacco in. I don't think it's enough to beat the Vikings team, and I don't think that the Vikings have any trouble covering here.
Well, I agree with you on one part, but the thing is that I'll tell you something. I like the Vikings to win this game, but I only like them to win by 3. And I think the game will be decided by less than the spread. Flacco definitely is an improvement with the Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson, why he even was drafted in the first place, I don't know. He had 13 college games where he started. He was throwing badly in college. His completion percentage is under 50%. He's a runner first. He's just learning the game. And to be honest with you, his mechanics are terrible as well. And he can't read defenses. Put him as a wide receiver. Put him as a running back. But he's not a quarterback in this league. Then you got what I like about Indianapolis is Jonathan Taylor. He runs the crap out of the ball. Okay? With him there, Flacco could pick apart any defense. I don't care whose defense it is. You put him in there, he can pick apart. The Vikings, they have a lot of flash. and Sam Darnold and everybody else, but they have no running game. They have no established runner over there. And the Colts, who are bad against the run, that's perfect for them. That feeds into their scheme of things. Vikings are coming off 2 losses. Yes, Minnesota should have won on Thursday night against the Rams, and I was going to say, but the Rams also last minute activated both of their wide receivers. That totally changes the dynamics of the Rams offense. I mean, you got Puka Nacua in there and Cooper Kupp. It's like a completely different team because it opens up so many different routes for other people. Okay? And that's what happened with Minnesota. They were not adapt to cover. The Vikings, yeah, at home. These guys, I don't know. The Colts, I think the Vikings win this game, but it's only going to be a field goal. I like the spread with 5. I like the fact that, Joe Flacco's in there. He gives them a better chance to win. He goes in, it's all business. He looks around. He knows the offense. He's done it before. He'll do it again. It'll be a very close game on Sunday night. I like the Colts plus 5.
Well, we disagree on that, but Monday night, interesting game. Bucks at Chiefs. The Chiefs 8.5-point favorites. Bucks without Godwin and a lot of injuries there. What do you think here?
I'll tell you something. This goes back and forth with me, and I decided that I like Kansas City in this game because Kansas City has not had a blown-out game yet, and that's what they need, and that's what the defense needs. They need to go out there and blow Tampa Bay out of the water because Baker Mayfield, we all know, is a gunslinger, and eventually gunslingers lose, and they throw interceptions, and they have turnovers, and Kansas City has a great defense. They are winning games with defense almost every game. They're making stops. Vegas last week got that backdoor cover, which, I'm sure a lot of people aren't crazy about because the game was already decided. Kansas City's, wasn't losing that game. The Bucks last week, they lost against Atlanta. They have something against Atlanta. They can't seem to win that game. They're all over the place. They have injuries. Mike Evans got injured last week as well. Who knows if he's playing this week? I got to look at the wire, but you could always read my website to see the updated, injury report. Who's stopping Mahomes? Mahomes is like a magician. This is a great team. You got, as long as Kareem Hunt can get 70, 75 yards a game, who's stopping Mahomes? Now they got DeAndre Hopkins. He's had a full week of training camp, of practice, going through stuff. The rich get richer, and you're going to have things happen. Kansas City is just going to keep mowing along. I see the Chiefs winning this game by 2 touchdowns, if not at least 10 points, 2 touchdowns, and, Baker Mayfield has a couple of turnovers.
It's interesting. I liked the Chiefs last week, and then, like you said, watching the game, you just felt as though Oakland was going to cover it at the end, which they ended up doing. And I look at the Chiefs' defense; they're phenomenal. I think they're going to stop Baker because he doesn't have the weapons he had when the year started. But my problem is the Chiefs and Andy Reid are very smart. They know when they're going to win a game, and they don't step on the gas, and that's what scares me, laying over a touchdown with the Chiefs. But when it's all said and done, talent-wise, and who does what, I think the Chiefs' defense is the reason they're going to cover the spread. I do like the Chiefs here. I think it's an important game for them to just continue the winning way and just, keep playing for that number 1 seed because that's what they're playing for every week. They need to make sure that they get that 1 seed to get that extra week of rest because that's so important. And, the Bucks with their injuries, on a regular week, any team going up and going to Kansas City is a tough enough place to play. But now you're playing without your best team out there with a quarterback who he's not scared, but he also makes a lot of bad decisions. I got to go with the Chiefs here. I think that they're just more experienced and they'll do what they need to do to win.
I agree with you.
So where can people find you?
Find me at jeffcadillac.com. I got best bet of the week on Friday on Twitter at jeffcadillac1. Unfortunately, like a dummy, I thought the Jets last week were going to finally crack the code, but the defense didn't show up, and they lost against New England. But the best bet of the week is still 5-2-1, respectable right there, and looking to go 6-2-1 this week, tomorrow actually on Friday.
That's way more than respectable. You make a lot of money going 5-2-1 over a course of a year, especially the NFL. And the great thing about your picks, they're all there on your website, jeffcadillac.com. You don't have to pay for it. You see everything and how Jeff thinks. He writes up about all his games. And you know, he's transparent. When he loses, but it doesn't happen very often, and his record over the last few years is really good. You can follow me on X at JB _ the program, sidelinesportsnet.com. Sideline Sports every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. We'll see you guys next week, Wednesday night, 6:30 Eastern, and we'll be back on the regular rotation. I know you guys missed us. We appreciate you checking in. We'll see you next week.
Take care. All right. Get him.